practice officially ends. But for the meantime, we can get into a discussion about what this football team is getting ready to go through. We're going to hear from Titans General Manager Jon Robinson. He's expected to be on in just about an hour from now, and your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. 615-737-1045. But we got to start. We got to start in an uncomfortable place. We got to start in an unfortunate place because Donald Page, their team photographer, just walked by here as the show was starting and said, "Make sure they ask you about your weight." And I don't want to start my day like that. I don't want to do this today.
Did you not think that's how this was going to start?
No, I was hoping that people would just forget. Like I thought that we would just be able to move on.
That's usually why people post stuff to social media, so that nobody notices.
Well, listen, I mean, it's not like I have a strategy when I much thought
unhinged. Yeah, I'm unhinged.
Just completely unruly. Yeah, I didn't make it. I didn't make it. I didn't want to bring the scale out.
How many pounds short of the goal?
6.6. 6.6. 220 by training camp was a failure. This was my 3-interception game. This wasn't Kirby
walked off the set.
Kirby just threw his headset. Kirby, I know I promised you. I don't know if your microphone is working. I don't know if you're capable of speaking yet this morning. I don't know if you've had the necessary Pepsi and cigarettes to function.
I ain't carrying you on my shoulders.
Is that all you wanted to say?
So what happens now? Do you just stop? Do you
give
up?
No, we don't give up. This is, we watch the film and improve. We're going to come back. We're going to be ready for the preseason. We're going to get into shape. 220 by Baltimore.
Okay, 220 by Baltimore. So 220 by the first preseason game is
right.
The new goal, which is on August.
We got like 10 days.
August 11th. So you have about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And there's not a birthday in between. The birthday really screwed me.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Do I need to cut off a leg?
Do you need to cut off a leg more than that, buddy? I don't think I'm carrying it in my leg. Anyway,
that's where I leave it.
All right, very good. Back to the shadows. Kirby Allen Kirby, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we'll hear from him at some point throughout the course of today. So let's talk Titans, shall we? New season officially underway. Training camp here in front of us, and a lot of different position battles to watch. That's going to be the discussion. And through the course of this week, through the rest of this week, we're going to be keeping tabs on the kind of things that we outlined today. We'll give you the latest information. You'll hear from a lot of the players throughout the course of the show while we're out here at training camp. And for the Titans, it's for me, Lucas, about the offensive line. For me, it is about the passing game fundamentally, their biggest question. And I think that's the place where it starts. That's probably counterintuitive to a lot of people given the loss of A.J. Brown, and now you're coming in Treylon Burks. By the way, Treylon Burks at practice participating today. We'll give you more updates after practice has concluded and in a little more detail about what his workload looked like specifically. But the biggest question around this football team is, can their passing game survive and, frankly, advance without their best and most talented player on the offense the last couple of years? And that's what we're going to be paying attention to today. Offensive line and wide receivers, how all that comes together. And something happened that I can't talk about yet.
That's going to be the trouble here.
Can people hear like the ambient cheering in the background? I feel like they can.
Yes, they can.
No, I know, Emily. I can't say anything. Thank you for all your help, Emily Proud. WKR.
Just looking out for us.
We got a whole audience here today. Yeah, hear no evil, see no evil.
Sounds like you're at a playground, Buck.
It sounds like we're at the playground? We basically are.
Yeah, it sounds like you're at a playground and there's just a bunch of kids and the PE teachers are blowing the whistle in the background.
Well, I'll tell you who the PE teacher was very happy with at about 10:45, 11 o'clock. But yeah, how they survive this and who emerges basically as the players at the wide receiver position and tight end who gel best with quarterback Ryan Tannehill. If they can get him comfortable, and the sooner that they can get him comfortable, it's going to be the key to the entire season. That's obvious analysis, but that's what training camp is. It's obvious. It's grassroots. It's day one. And this is the thing that we're going to see play out in front of us over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Definitely on the offensive line, the priority list between offensive line and wide receiver, offensive line is higher because of how critical especially one of those two spots are. At left guard, between Jamarco Jones and Aaron Brewer, maybe it doesn't exactly inspire confidence, but you know that it's between one of two guys that have started in this league. But at right tackle, it's Dylan Radins, and if it's not, I don't know. I'm throwing my hands up because I have no idea. Do you throw Nick Petit-Frere in there, the rookie out of Ohio State? Do you have to go get another body?
Yeah.
So there's probably more pressure on that side of the offensive line, but everything is settled other than those two spots, and I feel like you're probably more comfortable with one versus the other right now on July 27th.
Well, it does seem like Radins is the leader in the clubhouse, and that will be the kind of storyline that carries how far he can progress and how much further he can go as a former second-round pick with, you know, a clear and obvious need that they've been chasing for the last couple of years. And I do think it helps that they drafted Petit-Frere in the third round this year because that is the kind of competition that you're talking about. It's the same. It is similar to me to look at Roger McCreary, the second-round pick out of Auburn, and Caleb Farley on the roster as a former first-rounder. And for them to be able to send a message to either Caleb Farley or Elijah Molden, depending on where Roger McCreary might be competing, that, hey, you need to come out and compete for your spot each and every day. And that's the kind of stuff that Mike Vrabel was talking about yesterday when it came to the fundamentals of not relying on talent. He wants to, obviously talent is critical, talent is important. This is not a talentless football team by any stretch of the imagination. But it's how you get them to work together cohesively that's going to define how much success or failure that they end up having this season.
Yeah, I'm fascinated at the wide receiver position. What do you think it needs to be narrowed down to at wide receiver? Is it 3, 4, 5? I mean, are those the three spots, 4, 5, 6? Like, what's the most important thing they're trying to determine at that spot moving down the depth chart?
How many they need to carry, honestly, and who provides both the most value. I think Nick Westbrook-Akina is the best example of this across several different years because this is going into year 4, I believe, for him as an undrafted rookie free agent out of Indiana. And NWI in his first training camp, I mean, it was a season-long or off-season-long joke how poor he was catching the football. Like, it was really, really bad. And over the course of time, not only did he improve his skill set as a player, but he learned all three positions for the offense. And while he may not be he's not Julio Jones, he's not A.J. Brown, he does not have the talent level necessarily and the athletic gifts of Treylon Burks. But because he knows their offense, he knows all three positions, he allows them to do different things with him as a critical piece. That's how you keep your job in the NFL. First-round picks get chance after chance. But for a guy like a UDFA like that to last 4 years, that I think is the example for Des Fitzpatrick. That I think is the example for Racey McMath. Because Racey, LSU, this was something that was consistently a conversation around him. Injuries derailed him. Hugely talented, hugely athletic, hugely physical. And then all the best that he becomes is a special teams ace, potentially. I think that if you're following that kind of a formula, Racey McMath, and doing a kind of Nick Westbrook-Akina progression, that's exactly what these next couple of weeks are looking for, and I think that's going to determine those final roster spots and, frankly, how many they keep.
They're a full go from the start, right? There's nothing holding anybody back right now. Like, that's critical, right? Robert Woods doesn't have his knee brace on. We've heard glowing reviews about Treylon Burks heading into training camp. So there's nothing holding any of these individuals back physically to be able to go full go, determine who makes the roster, determine those 3, 4, 5, 6 spots at wide receiver. And on the offensive line, too. Like last year, coming into camp, Taylor Lewan, still coming off that ACL. On defense, Bud Dupree was still coming off that ACL. It feels like across the board, for the most part, other than the 3 on the PUP list, that everybody is full go on day 1 of training camp, and you cannot understate how important that is when we saw how last year played out.
I think we should go the rest of training camp without mentioning Taylor Lewan by his name, because the first person to come out here and chirp me about my weight was Taylor Lewan.
What'd he say?
He said, "There's no way you're 220." I said, "You're right. I'm off by 6." It's cruel. It's unusual.
So if we can't
say that guy,
if we can't say his name, then how do we refer to Lewan?
77.
Okay.
Or he who must not be named.
Derek in the YouTube chat is hearing whistles, and he heard the cheers that we heard in the field right in front of us. He said, "Blink twice if it's Treylon."
I have sunglasses on, so you have no idea what's going on today. We're out here live at Titans training camp, St. Thomas Sports Park, where we will be all training camp long. Will Bowling, Kirby Allen Kirby, Lucas Panzica, and myself. Jon Robinson going to join us in about an hour from now, so make sure you're listening. We got giveaways to do. I've got a pair of VIP passes, Lucas, to the Music City Grand Prix for a listener and a friend, a loved one, a family member, whatever you choose, for two people to go to the VIP experience on the General Jackson Sunday of the Music City Grand Prix to do later on in the show when we get to the dumbest thing in sports this week.
So that'll be the dumbest thing in sports this week. So hang around for that. But we are putting out the prompt today, the tweet for you to reply to with your best impression of Mike Vrabel, where we will pick the best one to come with us for the VIP experience at the Music City Grand Prix. So
yell that a little louder so he hears it.
Well, he's going to see it no matter what. Multiple opportunities to come hang out on the General Jackson during the race. That is the one I am by far the most excited for, but you have to respond to the tweet that will be put out later today from your account.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Coming up next, the training camp battles that we are most focused on day one, the ones that we are going to be tracking first and foremost, that I think will tell the largest picture or the largest story, the best story for this Tennessee Titans training camp as it gets underway. We're happy to have you as a part of the show, live from St. Thomas Sports Park. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Buck, Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Okay.
Even
It most certainly is. Spring Hill AC making it all happen. We greatly appreciate them. As always, welcome back to the show live from St. Thomas Sports Park, Titans training camp underway. Good contingent of media folks, friends. Good to see everybody. Get out here like normal again. It's an actual normalized training camp. It has not been this way since 2019. Since August of 2019, July of 2019. That feels like an eternity ago. Just to be able to move freely, to be able to interact with people, it is really, really refreshing. It's been quite some time. I'm enjoying it, and I'm happy that you guys are out here with me. Makes me happy. Not just being out on an island talking to myself and then scurrying over under the pavilion when it starts to rain with a microphone. Leaving Kirby. No, it wasn't even Kirby. Kirby even left me last year. I just abandoned the whole production crew. Oh, yes, Kirby adequately quarantined, as I mentioned how nice it is to be back together again. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So, the most important position battles to watch starting today. Day one, which ones are we tracking? We're going to get to that here in a second. But Lucas informs me that there has been financial disclosures on the Julio Jones Tampa Bay Buccaneers contract, and what do you want me to do with this?
I want you to guess. Julio Jones, a one-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's the salary? What is the base salary, and what is the max value?
All right, base salary for Julio Jones with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm going to say, Kirby guesses 3. I'm going to say that Julio Jones is making $6 million this year.
With a max value of?
A max value, incentives up to 9.
$6 million base salary.
Ah!
Max value of $8 million.
Oh, look at that.
1 year.
I should have gone $1 under, Bob.
We hadn't even gotten a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to Julio here in just a second. And, I'm just from a roster building strategy standpoint for a team like Tennessee, like I'm looking forward to asking Jon when he comes on, Jon Robinson with us here in a little bit, in about an hour. I'm looking forward to asking him basically risk reward when it comes to swinging on a piece like Julio. Right? Now, what we know about Julio in 2022, July of 2022, is vastly different than what the reaction was when the trade was announced last June. Was it Percy Priestlake he was on?
I believe it was Percy Priestlake.
Pinewood, the historic Pinewood Kitchen, the whole shebang, right?
Not as historic as we thought it was going to be.
Decidedly less historic than I think everybody would have imagined. But point being, risk reward on Julio, is something like that always worth doing? Because I look at the Bills, and I think the exact same thing about Von Miller. Now, Von is not coming up with a hammy every 6 to 10 weeks.
And that's big money.
No, it's big money, and it's a 6-year deal.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a financially responsible thing to do to give Von Miller at his age that kind of a contract when football players' bodies can break down at any given point. But I think it's worth it for Buffalo to swing on it like that because they're Super Bowl contenders. They've got one of the most talented rosters, certainly in the AFC, if not the NFL. And I think when it comes down to that, I almost look, even in retrospect, at the Julio thing as a risk worth taking if it ended up benefiting them in bigger moments. It didn't pan out, and you live with the consequences of that. But that doesn't mean that you don't do things like give Julio or trade for Julio Jones.
I mean, was Antonio Brown a risk worth taking for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yes.
It crashed and burned. It flamed out, but certainly was a risk worth taking. He helped them win a Super Bowl.
What a roller coaster ride that was.
Look at their wide receiver core now. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Kyle Rudolph now at the tight end position after Gronk, quote-unquote, retires, and now Julio Jones.
So with Julio, we'll spend a little more time on that later in the show. By the way, he returns to Nashville. I believe that's August 16th and 17th for open practice. Lucas, maybe fact check.
Yeah, they play the Bucs August 20th at Nissan Stadium.
So it's either the 16th and the 17th or the 17th and the 18th that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be in Tennessee for joint practices. Tom Brady makes his second return to St. Thomas Sports Park, this time, though, with the Bucs. So as we start to see things play out on the field in front of us, the position battles that we're watching. We mentioned offensive line. We mentioned the wide receiver core. And I don't think we have talked yet about the secondary, but the secondary obviously has a significant discussion given the hole on one side, on the outside, that Janoris Jenkins or Jackrabbit left when they cut him. Now, they've got a couple of options. It's a good spot to be in. But of those three, because I think those are the three, I think we know what the tight ends are going to look like in some form or fashion. I think we know what the defensive line rotation looks like. The inside linebackers, we'll see what they add in the absence of Monty Rice. But now, especially with the retirement of Buster Screen yesterday, in addition, secondary, wide receivers, offensive line, which are you most focused on? 615-737-1045 would be curious to hear your opinion. Because for me, it's the offensive line. I think Dylan Radunz is such an important piece, not just for this season, but because they've been chasing that position for a couple of years now. Like, it is critical that they have some kind of stabilizing force. And David Quessenberry, for as great of a human being as he was, and a valuable asset to have a player like that who can play multiple positions, it simply wasn't good enough for them. The offensive line as a unit simply wasn't good enough. Variety of reasons for that. Nate Davis, concussions and COVID.
I got Vrabel and OL.
Taylor Lewan recovering from ACLs. Not sure what to make of Radunz in year one. So to hear Mike Vrabel talk about the offensive line competition yesterday, I thought was particularly interesting. Let's hear from the head coach.
Well, I think that I'm hoping that the momentum from the spring carries over to training camp. Excited to see him work. Fantastic condition. I think his technique's improved. I think he's more comfortable in what we're doing and what we're asking him to do and with his techniques. And so, we'll base it on each day, and he's excited to go earn a position.
20 seconds.
Yeah, I think until somebody absolutely solidifies that, where Jamarco and Brew will work, Dylan and Nick and
10.
But we're gonna have to line up with 5 guys tomorrow in the first group and see what that looks like after the first.
Coming back.
And then give everybody an opportunity to compete.
So that's Mike Vrabel, Titans head coach, opening up training camp yesterday, his press conference, discussing a variety of different things, that specifically the offensive line competition. So, looking at Jamarco Jones, he's been in the league since 2019. He has played in a total of 36 games, but he has only 7 starts across 3 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks, and it's at a variety of different positions. He's a journeyman. Now, Mike knows him. Vrabel knows him from Ohio State because that is where he went to college and came into the league as a prospect. So there's a degree of familiarity with the skill set, or at least with what they think the player can provide them, maybe in an expanded role, because we don't know what the situation specifically was, competition at that spot when Jamarco Jones was on the Seahawks roster. But between him and Aaron Brewer, I would almost say, just based off Aaron Brewer's body of work, there is not the kind of technical proficiency, at least yet, and something that will need to be studied by Jon Robinson and the coaching staff, not quite the technical proficiency from him yet to overcome size limitations, because he's a physically smaller offensive lineman, like comparatively, when you're dealing with a guy like Jeff Simmons in front of you, or Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs, or, even Daquan Jones, who's on the Bills' defensive line now. Like, that is going to get you at a certain point. And that was something you never had to worry about with Roger Saffold, because Roger is built like Superman. It's a little bit of a different situation. I would think that Jamarco Jones probably has a better opportunity to earn that spot, just as we sit here without watching this thing yet.
And Saffold picked up a knock, right? I don't think he's starting on the NFI list.
No, he has a rib injury. I think Roger got in a car wreck.
Yeah, it was a car wreck. So I'm seeing Matty Glab now, former Tennessee VFL Films reporter, who's the team reporter for the Bills, who put that out a few days ago.
Yeah, so I hope Roger's doing okay.
So what's the best case scenario? Obviously, whoever wins the job wins the job. But is it best case scenario for the Titans if Jamarco Jones, who they bring in, he's had limited starts, he's played in this league in Seattle, they bring him in the offseason, if he picks up that role at left guard, or if it's Aaron Brewer, who, as you said, undersized, but he's played in that spot before, he's played next to Lewan before, what's the best case scenario for the Titans in that spot?
I would think, again, this is without having watched them outside of the offseason.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a very, very small sample size.
If you're a Titans fan, who do you want to win that job?
I think Titans fans probably want Aaron Brewer because they know him. Like, they're familiar with him. that's a known commodity, and people are always more inclined to go with the known commodity because they recognize that it's something, it's just a comfort level thing. Like, I think that's what fans default to. But I don't necessarily think that that's in the best interest of what he provides, just based on what we've seen from him so far. And it's spurt spots, right? Like, he hasn't been a starting for a considerable amount of time. It's just like relief duty every time Roger Saffold had a nick or a ding or needed to come out of a game and came back in.
We're at center, too.
Yeah, it became, the center situation. Ben Jones missed a couple snaps in the Jets, and you have a snap flying over Ryan Tannehill's head.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how much do Titans fans associate Brewer with that?
I just kind of looking at the notes that I have from the Football Outsiders almanac that I really, really value. They do a great job with putting together. I know people get bent out of shape when they talk about the Titans and DVOA, but like for forecasting the season, I think it's really informative stuff to know how to work off of. But the passage here on the offensive line is that they didn't really give up a high pressure rate because Tannehill was getting rid of the ball so quickly. So you can mitigate a lot of issues or difficult things that you are trying to manage, personnel deficiencies, whatever the case may be, just by getting the ball out quickly. This was something that Ramon Foster and I were talking about. I think I was on with them yesterday morning. And Ramon had asked me, what can they do to get the quarterback more in rhythm? How can they be a more modernized passing offense without losing sight of what it is that makes them, right? Run the football, 2 tight end sets, play great defense, take care of the football, all these different things. But even the idea of just spreading everything out, like not coming out in a 2 tight end formation or with 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers, just an empty set, right? And making him get rid of the ball quickly, in rhythm. Tempo is something that this team could stand to benefit from, especially when we talked about how poorly they performed in the first quarter. I'll find this because I wrote this back in the spring about how many points per first quarter they were averaging, how difficult it was for them to kind of get their feet under them to start, so they wouldn't have to scratch and claw and have miraculous turnovers that got them back into games. But I think the offensive line, it's not like a completely broken thing. I think that you feel great about the way that Taylor Lewan is responding, and whether or not, how much a difference things like him not being on Twitter or Instagram this season, I don't know how much difference that makes actually in the grand scheme of things. But I think for the purposes of, the message that it sends, I'm concentrating on football. He's this outside personality. He's got the Barstool thing. He's very, very visible. And for him to just want to make it about football at the start of this and how much better a mood he was in. I mean, I think he called it bleeping miserable last year, coming through the ACL and still rehabbing through this part of the offseason. I think that energy is infectious, and when he's right, he is a top 10 left tackle in professional football, and everything else is easier to fit in around a guy if you know that you can at least rely on one side consistently. That's what we need from him, consistency.
So Idiot Garage on the YouTube chat says, I would say from a familiarity standpoint, Brewer has the best advantage from working with Lewan more and trust from the coaches. And then Tyler says, I'd go with Brewer, but his size just worries me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like I
so
really
people come
do
back to
think
that.
people are going to default with Aaron Brewer.
Now we have a question about if Nick Petit-Frere has a shot at left guard, but
No.
he's largely viewed as a tackle.
He's
right?
a swing tackle. Like he can play both. There's some mechanical things. Just kind of going back and watching him at Ohio State, there's some balance stuff that he's physically good enough to overcome in college. But premier pro defensive ends and edge players will be able to take advantage of him. He's not an interior player though. It's not like Radens where they know he can. I think in Jon Robinson's words, they know he can play tackle. He's worked some at guard. It's not a situation quite like that.
But there's certainly more pressure on that side, on that position.
You would say on the right tackle?
Right tackle.
I think that's a fair assessment because the other two, Brewer and Jamarco Jones, they're not players coming in with a high pedigree. This is a second round draft pick who is by all accounts athletically gifted and played at a much lower level of football, so people don't necessarily know what to make of him because I don't know how many people in the audience, respectfully, I'm sure many of you do your homework, but I don't know how many people in the audience were watching things like North Dakota State football prior to Dylan Radens becoming part of the Tennessee Titans.
Well, they barely had a chance to in 2020.
One game for the FCS in the pandemic season. Jon Robinson talked about Dylan Radens yesterday. This was the general manager addressing the media alongside assistant GM Ryan Cowden. What happened, Brett? What happened? Did I throw you under the? Did I throw you? Did I throw you under the
No,
bus?
I'm sorry.
What
I was talking to Schaefer.
Oh, Schaefer!
So what do you?
He said, "What do you want?"
I'm sorry.
Hang on, just give me 1 second.
Schaefer,
Sorry, did you need something?
Schaefer, I'm out here trying to do a radio show. I have zero visibility. You cannot hang me out to dry like this. What are you doing? You cannot actively sabotage my show this way.
Okay, what do you want?
Wait.
I went off the air, so I wouldn't say that real quick. But I was completely talking to Schaefer, and then I
Let's
tried to
go.
go silent, and I started freaking out. But
Brett, do you have in front of you the clip of Jon Robinson talking about Dylan Radins? Can you do
Yes,
that
I do.
for me, please? Excellent.
Oh,
Let me
that's
hear from the
wonderful.
general manager.
When he puts his hand in the grass, do everything he can to try to block his guy. Like, that's his most important job. There's a lot that goes into that. But Dylan is a guy that's in here early. He's one of the first guys in the building every day. I know it's extremely important to him. Maybe his personality isn't that one to be outgoing and, I'm going to go chew through rebarb. But it's extreme
coming back, my fault.
time that he puts in this building.
That's Jon Robinson talking about Dylan Radins yesterday at the podium.
What is rebarb?
Rebarb?
Yeah, Kirby, what's rebarb?
Kirby Allen Kirby, we go to you for all things institutional knowledge.
Well, the word is rebar, not rebarb, and it is the reinforced steel that isn't, well, it's iron that is inside reinforced concrete and stuff. When you see the skeletal systems before a concrete pour, they put the basket, like all of this stuff right here, that's all been reinforced. That's got rebar in it. It's very unforgiving. It'll rip your hands and stuff. And
Have you ever chewed it?
No, I haven't, but I have blade rebar. The old Franklin Kroger there on Hillsborough Road, a buddy of mine was head of the ironworkers that did that, and I had to help him out for a couple of days because those guys got stuck somewhere else, and it's not fun.
That sounds like harder work than I've ever even imagined in my lifetime.
It's labor.
Kirby Allen Kirby, always there for us on the drop of a hat. Thank you, Kirby. Back to the shadows. 615-737-1045. But then, outside of the offensive line, where I guess do you gravitate? So, if anybody in the audience wants to jump in as well, we're happy to have that discussion. But I think between offensive line, wide receivers, and secondary, is there one that kind of piques your interest?
I mean, the Buster Screen news yesterday kind of throws a wrench into your plans.
It
at
kind of
corner.
bleeps them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was already a big focal spot because of Caleb Farley and the strides you feel like he has to make for this defense to pick up right where they left off. But that's a critical depth piece, Buster Screen was, for the Titans last year. He had some really good snaps for them last year. Blaine talked about it all the time on Blaine and Mickey. Like Blaine would know, as a former Titans defensive back, he loved Buster Screen. 11 years in this league, a lot of snaps under his belt, just a really critical depth piece for the Titans that, boom, you snap your fingers at the start of training camp, literally the first day of training camp, he's no longer on the roster. So Vrabel said they have to replace the body. They can replace the body, but I don't know that they're going to replace it with 11 years of NFL experience that still have a lot to offer. And it looked like Buster Screen still had a lot to offer when he joined the Titans last year.
No, I mean, that was certainly the case. And like you mentioned, I think the thing that I learned from Blaine about how many different ways they were using Buster Screen, not just at one position. He wasn't just an outside corner. He wasn't just a slot guy, one just nickel, one just dime. Like, they have a variety of different uses for that dude, for him to be able to, for basically them to be able to patchwork their secondary together while things were less stable in that way. Now, I really think that comes back again to Caleb Farley, though. We spent, I think, Monday talking about the idea. You got Robert Woods, you got Caleb Farley, the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, only 3 players, the undrafted rookie free agent kicker, Caleb Shudak, you've got Tommy Hudson, a tight end, and Monty Rice, who is still recovering, it would seem, from an Achilles injury. If I gave you that at any point, just a list of 3 names of players who were not physically able to compete at any point last season, would you not take that and run?
Oh my God, I don't know if they did have that at any point last season. Only 3 guys on a list like
I think
that.
like right before the playoff game, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's as healthy as they were all season long. Was right before the Bengals game, which is obviously another reason why that hurt Titans fans so much. But yeah, that best case scenario is obviously 0 on the PUP list, but that's often often unrealistic.
Yeah, but those two guys that I started with, Robert Woods and Caleb Farley, like to have them out here, one, the wide receivers get a consistent for somebody who's been through the course of training camp, because it's a young group outside of that. Des Fitzpatrick in his second year, Burks and Kyle Phillips in their first year, Racing McMath in his second year, and Chigakonkwo, a rookie tight end, Austin Hooper, the first time with the offense. I think that ultimately you look at this situation and you say to have him here just to get them through the basics, to get them through the fundamentals, to help them correct their mistakes in ways that he understands, because he's just been through training camp after training camp. This is what, coming into season 10 for Robert Woods? That is value. That is critical. Now Farley, it's a different situation because the secondary is young. Kevin Byard, now with Buster Screen. Screen was 33 when I think coming into this season. And Caleb Farley, like they don't have a defensive back over the age of 23 now, I think, outside of Byard, including Amani Hooker. Like Amani Hooker is a really young player, even though he's been in the league for a couple of years.
Yeah, like Chris Jackson is like a grizzled vet at this point.
When Chris
you put
Jackson
it in
probably
context.
23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Coming out of that 2020 draft class in the 6th round or 7th round out of Marshall, if memory serves.
Yeah.
But we, Lucas has put together some kind of a highlight. Do you want to tease this? Do you want to do a commercial break tease, bud?
Yeah, I mean, when the Julio Jones news came out to the Buccaneers yesterday, it just got me thinking of all the good times. Just all the good times of Julio Jones in a Titans uniform. Just another chapter in the series of legendary Hall of Fame level wide receivers to come play for the Tennessee Titans. So I thought I would put something together for us to sit back and commemorate it a little bit, because I don't want to forget, I don't want to forget Julio's time in Nashville is just so memorable. So we'll do that coming back.
All right, we eulogize Julio Jones' Titans
Buck, you
career
got Music City
right
GP
here
after this.
on 104.5 The Zone coming up next.
Get the best Titans
GP coming up.
training camp on your Titans radio flagship, 104.5 The Zone.
If you are not already attending the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix coming up here in just a couple of weeks in downtown Nashville, we have the experience for you. On Sunday, August the 7th, the Zone is taking over the General Jackson. Make sure you purchase the Sunday ticket for the Zone General Jackson experience, which includes all-day food, air conditioning. You'll have closed-circuit television coverage of the race. You don't have to stay on the boat. You can get on and off as you like to go experience the track itself, because with your Zone General Jackson ticket comes a ticket to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix that day and the post-race concert with Brantley Gilbert, Carly Pierce Midland, and Callista Clark. We'll be hosting, Lucas and myself, a driver Q&A on the General Jackson before the race begins. So check out the Music City Grand Prix, the Zone General Jackson experience, and get more information at musiccitygp.com. St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. Titans practice still taking place in front of us. My understanding, so the schedule that I had said 11:30 initially, but it sounds like things may wrap up a little bit earlier today to get ahead of any weather that may be coming out. So we will continue to keep an eye on things, and as soon as practice concludes, we will give you some good updates about what's taking place in front of us right now. The only thing that was able to be filmed for the media live that is probably already out there on the internet, I'm sure. I've got my Traylon Burks and Ryan Tannehill and all kinds of other videos on my phone, but basically just the individual periods and stretch for the players. And then, of course, live tweeting concludes when they do things like 7-on-7, red zone drills, anything that would involve any kind of schematics and play call, which is the kind of stuff that is currently taking place. And we'll be able to tell you what happened, but we can't update you in real time. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So Lucas put together a thing. Lucas put together a memorial audio piece of what it was that Julio Jones' career was here as a Tennessee Titan. Is there any better way for me to set it up? Do you need to say anything before Brett hopefully plays the sound back there?
No, let's just sit back and remember the good times. Go ahead, Brett.
Call you, I need you, my heart's on fire.
Tannehill looks left, comes back to the middle, fires. Julio Jones, touchdown! Titans, finally! Julio for 6.
What happened?
Oh, man, it just get emotional
That's it?
thinking about it. You know, it's just one of the best receivers to ever grace a Titans uniform.
Now wait, you did a disservice to that man, because that is correct. That is the only Tennessee.
Those are all his touchdowns.
That is an accurate assessment.
As every touchdown, Julio Jones. Why don't you have some respect, Buck?
What was wrong with you? What is wrong
for the
with
work
you?
that I put in to put that together, and for the work that Julio was able to put in when he was available for the Tennessee Titans in 2021.
He really should have had that Seahawks touchdown, man. I watched that back. They were showing the highlights of that back on SportsCenter yesterday when he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One singular. Oh, practice looks like it's just concluded for the day. That is indeed an early wrap for the Tennessee Titans on day one of training camp. We can now tell you that Treylon Burks does indeed look thinner, as reported by Diana Rossini. He looks in shape. He's finished the whole practice today, and had 3 really nice catches that I saw, Lucas, from our vantage point here. We can continue eulogizing Julio at a later time. But he had 3 really nice catches here, 2 of them over Christian Fulton, which, of course, two in the end zone, 2 touchdowns over Christian Fulton, and then a really, really nice sideline grab here over Caleb Farley, at least in the 7-on-7 work that I saw him do. He may have more. We weren't able to. Obviously, we're breaking down things for you as we watch here, so we'll get more specific numbers for you from social media. I'm sure people are starting to tweet out, what Treylon Burks' first day at Titans training camp looked like.
He finished.
He finished. That's what you want. He finished the practice. Like, that's all you can ask for at this point, and then build upon that. Like, that's my whole thing with this pearl clutching about Treylon Burks. And I'm not trying to take anything away from people, because you're right to be curious. You're right to have questions. You're right to wonder why a former SEC athlete throughout the course of his first mini camp and OTAs, why he wasn't able to successfully get through a practice, but he did today. We'll see if he does it tomorrow. We'll see if he improves, and that's the whole purpose of this thing. If he's functional and productive by the time the preseason comes around, and there are dividends that we can see in front of us, or not, then we can have reactions, however you like, one way or the other, with the Treylon Burks storyline. But for today, success.
No
Today's
longer a
success.
conversation. Until it happens again, it's no longer a talking
until
point.
the next mispractice.
Right. If it happens again. But until that point, then it's no longer a talking point for this team, because it was a very fixable problem, right? Like, Treylon Burks had asthma his entire college career at Arkansas.
Which, by the way, do you believe Sam Pittman didn't know?
About him having asthma?
Sam Pittman is saying that he did not know that Treylon Burks had asthma. I don't know. If that is so, that seems egregious to me.
Yeah, no, that's I don't know, though, because it's not as detailed as the draft process is with the medicals. Like, you don't have a pro day at the high school level. Like,
yeah, but you got to know.
If his tape at the high school level and his production at the high school level was good enough for Sam Pittman, then I think that's enough. I mean, I agree. You probably should know, and I bet he found out.
I just feel like in 3 years on campus, like especially given what they are asking him to do, like that has to come up at some point.
No, it's a good point. But maybe that tells you that didn't hold Traylon Burks back. Like asthma did not hold Traylon Burks back at OTAs. He was literally just out of shape.
No, I said that yesterday. I was not concerned at all. Or I mean, it's a detail to note, but I'm not overwhelmingly concerned with the asthma portion of it. And again, I just wanted to see if in fact what Diana Rossini had reported was accurate. And Diana is plugged in as anybody. And it is, to me today, that appeared to be the case. I saw the most productive version of Traylon Burks that I have seen since he played at Arkansas today. And that can continue to grow. That can continue to be built upon. And we'll see how we'll see what kind of progress he makes throughout the course of the week. I assume the way that this is going to work because I know we're going to have Jon Robinson, Titans general manager, over here at some point now that practice is officially concluded because the players are going to start to scatter. We're going to carry a portion of the press conferences today as well. I'm not 1,000% certain who's going to be at the podium, but I would assume, this being the first day of training camp, that Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, will address the media. So we'll keep tabs on that for you as you go along. 615-737-1045 is how you can jump in on the conversation. Now, when it comes to the wide receiver rotation, this was something that Mike Vrabel talked about yesterday and how much Traylon Burks can get a part of that. So, Brett, if I could hear from Mike Vrabel on the wide receiver rotation when he addressed Titans media at the opening of camp. Brett.
No, let's hear the Julio highlight.
Hang on.
Brett. What happened?
I'll explain in just a second.
No. Not in just a second. Explain now. You got to be kidding me.
Oh, Brett wanted to relive that again.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Do you want me to explain first or play the audio first?
Explain first. Let's explain since we're here and we're doing this thing now. We're already
This is totally on me.
Okay.
I had a question for Schaefer. I called him in here. This is not on Schaefer.
Can I blame Schaefer anyway?
If you want to,
okay.
But it's on me. I will take the full blame for it. I had the audio pulled up, double-clicked, ready for it to go because I knew that's where we were going. But when I clicked on it, it highlighted it, but it stayed on the other audio. So when I hit play, I saw wide receiver, and it just played the other wide receiver audio and not the Vrabel audio.
I still
if
love
that makes
you.
Sense.
Okay, this is
Thank
what?
You.
It's day one of training camp for everybody. Day one of training camp for everybody. We're going to watch the tape. We're going to reevaluate our performance afterwards. We're going to improve. We're going to be better when we come back the next day. I'm doing a radio show right now, Taylor. I can't hear you. Get out of here.
Hand over the dump button, bro.
Not yet. 615-737-1045. I can't argue with him while I'm on the air. I'll deal with it in a minute. But yeah, Jon Robinson. We'll get Jon Robinson's opinion on this when he comes over to update us on how day one of training camp went. I know our exposure out here is fairly limited, although we have a really good vantage point today. The way that St. Thomas is set up, for those of you who need to visualize, there's 3 practice fields, and we are at the 50-yard line of the first practice field with the second and third yet still in front of that. But we can see all 3. It's like a press box angle, except ground level. It's about as good a vantage point as we could ask for. Did you see anything that caught your attention outside of the obvious?
Traylon Burks, I was watching him almost the entire practice.
Were you really?
He was explosive. Also,
did you watch anything else?
Well, this is the first time I've seen Derrick Henry in person since he redid his hair with the braids flowing. It is terrifying.
It's a good look.
It's terrifying, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it looks like Jeffrey Simmons is now meeting with the media. I'm sure there are contract discussions or lack thereof being had. Jeff, by the way, went through practice. They have the there was a name or a term that John used the other day, or Vrabel used yesterday, about these caps that they have on the helmets that college kids wear. What is it, Kirby? Bumpers? That would be an accurate description for what it looks like, but they put these like foam or padded kind of caps over the helmets. It's the first time I've seen that at an NFL training camp. I know, you always see pictures of like spring ball or in college where players are doing that, but I guess that's something that the NFL is now incorporating as well, which is great. Less concussion concerns at this time of year once contact gets up and rolling. So from just generally kind of watching Burks today, what did you like about the way, just the fact that he did it, that he out? Was there anything specifically that caught your attention about the way that the young wide receiver performed?
The fact that he finished practice, he looked explosive, making catches against CB1, like you said, Christian Fulton, basically erasing any concerns that we had coming in that happened during OTAs. Like I said, today I think is enough reason to put that conversation away until it maybe happens again. If it does, then that conversation fully comes back. But you don't think it will, because he came into camp out of shape, and I don't think he's going to, or in shape, and I don't think he's going to fall out of shape in the midst of training camp. So that's the biggest headline so far today, I think, is that storyline is officially kind of put away.
So why don't we take a quick break, and then Titans general manager Jon Robinson will join us coming up next. I'm Buck
Okay, guys,
Reiser.
Spring Hill.
It's 104.5 The Zone.
Gallatin, Nashville.
Accumulate.
All right, Lucas, I'm turning your mic on right now.
Flagship for Titans Radio. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 10:57. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The first practice of the Titans 2022 training camp is in the books from St. Thomas Sports Park. Wide receiver Robert Woods, without a knee brace, and rookie wideout Treylon Burks did finish practice as the team walks off the field now. The Buck Rising Show broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans general manager Jon Robinson will join the show coming up in just a few minutes. Some Titans news from yesterday as head coach Mike Vrabel met with the media announcing that everybody is reported to camp other than veteran cornerback Buster Screen, who's announcing his retirement after 11 years in the league. Former Titans wide receiver Julio Jones has agreed to a one-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jones caught 31 passes for 434 yards, 1 touchdown in his lone season with the Titans, signing a $6 million base salary deal with a max value of $8 million. And the Bucs will be in Nashville in a couple of weeks for joint practices ahead of their preseason matchup at Nissan Stadium. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Buck Rising gets to host his own radio show.
Wait, is this a legit show? Or
that is until Lucas Panzica figures out how to get him fired.
Happening. Welcome into hour number 2 live from St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans training camp coverage right here on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica, Kirby Allen Kirby, Will Bowling out there making his way through the media availability wilds. We'll see who we'll talk to and what was said a little later on in the show. We're happy to have you here for the next 2 hours, just about. Happy to have you as a part of the conversation if you would like to. 615-737-1045 is how you join the show. 615-737-1045. Jon Robinson's going to sit down with us here in just a few minutes. Kirby Allen Kirby is watching dutifully to see when the general manager is going to make his way over to our setup out here at St. Thomas. Treylon Burks speaking to media. Courtesy of Jimmy Wyatt's Twitter account, @JWyattSports. After Wednesday's Titans practice, Treylon Burks said he feels good and he's lost around 5 to 6 pounds. Okay, how about that? So the reporting of Diana Rossini, again, accurate. Treylon Burks looking in better physical condition on day 1.
Also mentioned he should have done it sooner. Terry McCormick putting this quote out, and he wants to be accountable.
Well, here's the thing, they are professional athletes. They are adults. They are, by definition, grown men. But for a 22-year-old to learn the kind of professionalism that it requires to, when your body is your business that way, I think it's okay to have a little bit of a grace period. Now, I understand that there is a hyper-focus on this guy. And Will Bowling is scampering over or has scampered over to the desk right now. Perhaps Will can update us with who he spoke to over there at Titans as the players were coming off the field. I caught up with a couple just that were over here by the desk, but nothing on an official setting. No very big journalistic questions asked. Will, did you do some reporting?
A little bit. I don't know how much you guys have discussed what Treylon Burks had to say a minute ago, basically said 5 or 6 pounds down from last time he was here. Took the responsibility, took the blame for not being quite in shape. I assume you guys have kind of covered all that. But talked to Caleb Farley very briefly, talking about feeling confident, feeling thankful to not have the brace on the second time around through training camp and his ability to just kind of jump right in there. Treylon Burks also talking to Derrick Henry a little bit after a couple of those catches, made sure to note that Derrick came over, gave him a fist bump, talked to him after the diving catch he made at the beginning of practice.
A couple of nice ones.
Yeah, a couple of other ones. He was matched up with Caleb Farley for the majority of his reps, it seemed like. But, just a lot of Treylon Burks. Everybody wanting to know what he has to say today.
So, I mean, that kind of positional competitions are one thing, but like that I'm most interested in. Caleb Farley on Traylon Burks. Caleb Farley working on Robert Woods. How Roger McCreary holds up against pros at successful SEC tape. We've seen the kind of things that he's capable of, and certainly they have talked about it. His tape against Alabama is specifically the thing that they cite as Roger. And, you can go watch it for yourself. It's very, very good. I'm not worried about how short or how long his arms are in that particular instance. But those are the kind of camp battles that I'm more interested almost, not just finding out positional depth and where everybody stacks up, but who is competing with who and how they're responding to that specific kind of competition.
Right, and we saw a lot of Roger McCreary outside today. I thought that was interesting, not specifically playing nickel, not specifically playing just one spot. Saw a lot of Traylon Burks at the X receiver spot as well. Saw him specifically outside and doing a lot of the same things. I was impressed, Bug, with Robert Woods and the lack of limitations that he appeared to be pretty much full go. Mike Vrabel said yesterday of him, doing about 90% of the work. So, looked good.
All right, Will Bowling, we appreciate you stopping by. Titans GM Jon Robinson making his way over to the table right now. Boss man, what's happening?
What's up, guys?
Good to see you.
Great seeing you. Better to be seen than viewed.
No question about it. How did everything go today on the first day of camp?
Good start. I thought we had some good speed out there, some good competition. Saw some carryover from, the individual and the group drills over to the team sessions, and we're off and rolling.
So when you bring up carryover, just for the audience who may not necessarily understand the kind of things that you and the staff are looking for, what specifically are you trying to identify or trying to see how much guys picked up or where things might have dropped off?
Yeah, there's certain techniques and fundamentals with every position that the coaches work on during the individual portions of practice where it's just the coach in that position group. The techniques, it's hand placement, it's hat placement, it's hips, it's angles, all of that kind of stuff. And then you want to see that carry over into the team sessions where all the stuff that they learned in the individual stuff, fundamentally, they're applying it to the specific play that's called.
So with this period right now, it almost feeling like a little bit of an extension of Phase 3 as far as the pads not quite yet and kind of the acclimation process. What are you guys focused on first and foremost as we get out here and get started for fans to kind of be following along with?
Yeah, guys were in shape the last couple of days on the conditioning test, which was good. The energy at practice, I thought we had some good juice at practice today. Guys were into it. The attention to the details and the fundamentals of every play. Again, we've gotten all of the a lot of the installation is already in from the spring, so you start back over and you're what's the carryover from spring and that learning process to the initial couple days, and you can't just put the guys out there and throw pads on them and start hitting each other. There's an acclimation period that we work with the league and from a scheduling standpoint to get the guys ready for those contact periods.
Titans General Manager Jon Robinson here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're live out here at Titans training camp. Obviously a lot of first day kind of jitters or sloppiness, whatever you want to call it, to work out, but a lot of really good snaps from a lot of different dudes out there today. Traylon Burks looked like he was comfortable with what he was being asked. He looked productive out there. He looked like he was really competing.
Yeah, like I said yesterday in my kind of press session there, I thought that he did an outstanding job over the summer of getting himself back, and we saw that in the conditioning test and then those first two practices that weren't open to the media. It was just us here, and you could see that it was just it looked like more like what we saw on the Arkansas film when we evaluated him. And, the carryover that he showed out here today was off to a good start.
I don't think that's any small thing, given how much scrutiny, not even just individually Traylon, John, but like how much scrutiny these guys are on, given social media, given instantaneous reaction, things that I know that you know a lot about with all of this, but just simply the ability to put a good day together and then to build off it tomorrow and to go from there. I think people almost get ahead of themselves when they talk about the fundamentals of what training camp exactly is.
Yeah, especially for these rookies. They're learning a new offense. They're learning new terminology. Their system at Arkansas or Auburn, if it's Roger, or Ohio State, if it's the terminology may be a little different. And they're trying to, associate, well, we called it this for the last 4 years or 3 years at my college. It's the same skill and what we're asking, but we call it this here with the Titans. That association of what the terminology is, certainly, as a draft pick, the spotlight's on you. And let's face it, we live in kind of a microwave society where you just want to hit, reheat or cook for 3 minutes and you've got, Salisbury steak, So that's not the reality with football, with pro football. It's a process, and there's a patience that we have to have as a staff, and continue to evaluate, encourage, coach, and then it's up to the player to kind of keep grinding and improve.
Every NFL organization operates under their own rules and how whatever their standards are, but from your standpoint, when it comes to just basically managing expectations and almost that patience that you talk about, from my perspective, it looks like there's precious little patience in the league just generally, regardless of what the position is. And it seems that how much social media impacts that, whatever the case may be, whatever is impacting it, it just seems like that is a thing that I've observed. I don't know if somebody in your position has that observation as well, or if that's something that you've even experienced and figured out how to kind of manage.
Well, you're not going to be able to please everybody. You're going to get nitpicked on everything. Somebody's going to find something wrong. I think the social media, they call it trolling or trolls or something like that. Like I don't even.
I feel like that's what they call me. I think I'm
maybe
a troll.
I'm probably worse than that, but. We can't pay attention to that. The most important thing is what we do on a day in and day out basis. How we conduct ourselves away from the building, and then all of the work that we put in to be accountable to staff, teammates. When we're here working.
What is the biggest misconception you think about what your job entails entirely? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that people know. People obviously identify you as the general manager, but may not necessarily understand everything, all the different parts and pieces that you're responsible for managing.
Yeah, I think that probably the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is managing the roster and picking players and deciding who's going to be on the team and who's not going to be on the team. But that's not solely what I do. I work with Coach Vrabel when he's evaluating his coaches. I've met with, the week before we came to camp, I'm meeting with our ops team, and we're talking about parking and then where we're going to put this group, where we're going to put that group. I meet with Todd and our training staff. Like I asked him yesterday, how are the whirlpools? How's the cold tubs? Is everything good there? From the field standpoint, where are we at on laying the sod? It was a beach out here, 2 months ago when you guys came to, OTAs.
Everything looks pretty. I know it's been a slow burn, but everything looks pretty good.
I kind of cachet it, if that's the right word, and say that I generally manage a lot of stuff because, today the power went out and the clocks were out, so I've had my cell phone and I'm timing the periods and I'm telling Braves, you got 2 minutes left. But that's what you do. You just got to kind of clock in and whatever comes up, you're just trying to make sure that the organization and the football team's going in the right direction.
Titans GM Jon Robinson with us here on 104.5 The Zone. The relationship that you and Mike have, we've asked you about it a million times since you guys have been together, but it seems like it really just operates on a different kind of level, and it's been so much time spent, repetition basically at this point, kind of trying to figure out what makes sense for everybody and finding the best solution moving forward. That feels like something that you guys have really ironed out now heading into this is year 7 for you and year 5 for Mike.
Yeah, I think, with both of our backgrounds, what's that, Taylor?
Your favorite podcast.
Pod show, yeah. Yeah, Lawan wants me to pub his pod show. I'm not going to.
His pod show.
Hey, no free shout-outs.
No.
But no, I think, with Mike's history, certainly, starting with Pittsburgh and the Steelers, and then with, obviously with Coach Belichick there in New England and the time I spent in New England, philosophically, we see things similarly in how it should run, the types of players we want. Not that we don't have discussions back and forth and have some good conversations, but at the end of the day, it's about what's best for the football team. We both believe that, and it's about getting the right kind of players in here. There's got to be a certain level of talent, but they've got to be about the team. We don't want selfishness or any of that kind of stuff because it's just a distraction that ultimately somebody else has to manage.
No, I think kind of going back to misconceptions, I thought Mike was really good on that yesterday. I don't know how much of his comments you saw, but basically that he does not want you guys as a football team to rely on talent. There has to be fundamentals. There has to be discipline. The basic granular things that allow you to set yourself up for success in a football game that have to be established first before you can rely on highlight reel plays and, clear and obvious talent that everybody identifies because fantasy football and all these other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could look at over the history of sports, regardless of what the what the actual sport was. I don't think anybody, Ole Miss probably in the baseball, nobody thought, in the end of May or middle of May that they were going to win the College World Series.
A lot of bitter Vols fans out there, John.
Yeah, I know. And was Ole Miss the most talented team? I don't know. I don't know much about baseball. Right. But in the end, they found a way to come together as a team and make enough plays throughout the course of each game that they played, and they won. And it's certainly you've got to have talent, and I'm sure Ole Miss has got a bunch of great baseball players on their baseball team, and we got a bunch of great players on our football team. But it's about that group coming together as a team and working as one unit.
I'd have hit you up for the College World Series if I thought we were going to be doing some baseball in that.
Well, I don't know much about baseball. I think it's balls and strikes, and you get three strikes and you're out.
That's
still.
My understanding.
I was all region in Babe Ruth. And I wasn't a cleanup hitter, but I was pretty tough and I was durable and
gritty.
I was gritty. I wasn't afraid to sacrifice or try to take out a catcher. Whatever needed to be done.
Very noble of you. Titans GM Jon Robinson, kind enough to give us some of his time here on 104.5 The Zone. John, I appreciate you stopping by. Continued health and success.
Buck, you're looking good, man.
Buddy.
Did you make it?
No, I missed it by 6. I had a birthday last week.
That's okay.
No, it's trash. Like that, I can't be on a microphone criticizing professional athletes and then miss my weight thing by 6 pounds. That's not how this works.
Oh, you look good, though.
No, I appreciate that.
I've started.
When are you coming to Zumba with me?
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to look at my calendar.
You a little busy right now?
Yeah, is that like a pre-6 a.m.?
That's 6:30.
Maybe we could just get together and put an old Billy Blank's Tybo tape in. We could just do that.
Some insanity. I'm down. John, thanks for hanging out, man.
Great seeing you, Buck.
We'll take a quick break, come back, and react to some of the things we saw out here at practice. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Buck QC Kinetics.
And now,
coming up tomorrow morning.
Thursday, we got more tickets to give away for SummerSlam.
You're going to ask the fam the really tough trivia questions, aren't you, Jay?
Is Julio Jones a buck?
Plus, Coach Mack will join us live from St. Thomas.
10 seconds.
You, Aaron Rodgers at 8.
J. Martin Ramon from 6 to 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com. And Titans head coach Mike Vrabel is at the podium meeting with media after Titans practice at St. Thomas Sports Park. We go to that live now on 104.5 The Zone.
On offense, Torrey Carter on offense, DeMarcus Walker on defense, Amani Hooker on defense, and Caleb Farley on defense. And that was through a criteria of effort, consistency, and improvement.
I noticed Dez and Traylon were in drills or in the team periods with Ryan at quarterback and would follow Robert and Nick. Do you see all four guys competing for individual spots, or Traylon and Nick, or Dez, and also Dez getting into that mix?
Yeah, and hopefully, we'll continue to work some other guys in there.
Okay, our mics are off.
To try to answer your question, I don't think they're stacked up. I think we're just looking for rotation, see where guys fit. Yeah, we have to give a position, maybe you're the Z, you're the X, but ultimately guys like Nick and Robert, I would say off the top of my head, would be two that could probably play any position. That was something that Nick did extremely well last year, was his versatility to play all three receiver positions. I think he caught passes and, and was productive
we've had a good start
in all three of those. Maybe a player like Traylon or Racy would probably just play one position. That's great. Get really good at that position, or try to understand all the details. Because if you start asking them to do too much, maybe they don't. You're not getting as much out of them.
Back to Caleb Farley, and Kevin also said he was impressed with what he's seen with him. Just what have you seen out of him in the last couple of months? The work he's put in, not only with the rehab, but the playbook as well.
Yeah, and I think he can. Again, this is a certain set of circumstances of coming in, not having had a whole lot of conditioning or strength training or football for that matter, and the off season was an opportunity for him to do that, really train hard, lift, add strength and size that's critical in this league, but also an understanding of what his job is and what the offense is doing, and formations that they're in, or splits that they're in, and recognizing all those things. And then now trying to add that to practice to where you're able to recognize those things on the field and not on the film. The film's a little slower than the field. It's just, we've been working extremely hard. The brace isn't something for me to, it doesn't, I don't think it really matters whether he's in a brace or not. I know that everything that the doctors have told us is favorable, and the people that he's met with, and then, he's worked extremely hard. He's got a great professionalism. I think the only good things are going to continue to happen for him and our offense and his leadership.
Ryan's talked a great deal about the wound he felt from the end of last year. I know it's a clean slate, new start. But how do you expect a guy to funnel his disappointment into what he does next?
We all deal with some sort of trauma, throughout, our professional or our personal career. And, we try to help him. I think he's done a great job of putting the work in for himself. But the best way of when things aren't going well for you is to be around guys that you trust, that you care about, being around people, family. And so I think the best thing for all of us is to get back out here and get to work. Certainly enjoyed the time over the summer, but nothing compares to standing in front of a football team to try to develop a team, try to prepare them to win. Watching them practice, watching them compete, there's nothing that I've ever done that will compare to that. So I think when things aren't going great, it's always best to be around people that you care about and that care about you.
Bayard as a leader out there. When Jeff is out there on the field, how does he fill that role too?
Well, Jeff is, he plays to a certain standard, and when you do that, you have the luxury to be able to hold other people to that standard, whether that's in a weight room, meeting room, or on the practice field. And he's, and everybody leads differently. But I do appreciate Jeff's willingness to play with passion and also, hold guys accountable. And then if he'll hold himself accountable if he doesn't, live up to the standard that he set and that we expect of him.
What did you see from Malik today, and what do you want to see from him as camp progresses?
We touched on this the other day. Continue to make the correct decisions, but improve timing, which we believe is going to lead to improved accuracy, and just going out and having fun. The command of the huddle, we haven't had, to recall anything or step out of the huddle or have Todd give him the call again. And that just, I think, works to the flow of practice. Is when you can do that, then things go a little quicker and everybody's ready. The operation at the line of scrimmage, you're motioning guys, you're moving, you're getting us into the right play, not sitting there taking 20 seconds to find the right play. So those are the things that he's done well, and just continue to recognize the coverages as we talk to him about, hey, this is going to be this coverage, see how it's going to play, take a mental rep. That's something that we have always believed in is making sure that everybody's got the call back there, that they're watching their position, that they're taking a free rep and getting the coaching.
Kevin said that he likes to encourage young guys to try to go towards the head of the line until a veteran, holds them back. You see meaning in
or is that Kevin's way of just saying he doesn't want to get the rep?
You see meaning in that kind of thing. What did you do as a younger player?
What I did doesn't matter. I think Kevin's purpose of that is just encouraging guys to go out there. To go. Like, he understands that it doesn't matter whether you're a first-year player, first-round draft pick, seventh-year player. He wants to be surrounded by as many guys that want to help the team and compete, that he can trust and that we all can trust. So probably his is just trying to encourage those guys to get out there and not feel like they need to wait for an invitation.
You expect your top guys to be at the front?
I expect our top guys to play great every Sunday. That's what I expect.
He said that he was down about 5 or 6 pounds entering this camp, and Traylon also said he was down 5 or 6 pounds. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of weight in the grand scheme of things. Is it more about how you lose the weight as opposed to being lighter that makes you more effective?
I think a lot of this is just, these guys do a lot of conditioning, and we'll see it sometimes levels off once you get into the season or training camp. And there may be, sometimes guys away from here, they don't necessarily eat like they do when they're here. We got quite a spread in there. So, again, we want players to be as big and as strong and as conditioned as possible, and we monitor that with Lauren, our nutritionist, Todd, Frank, myself, to try to find what the right thing is. And we monitor that, 1, for hydration, and 2, for performance.
How proud are you of Dez, of the progress he's made from last training camp to this training camp, and where especially do you think he's gotten better?
Well, I think the year on the practice squad gave him a lot of confidence. He went out there and he ran routes with the intent to go win, that every ball was going to be thrown to him. And when we try to explain that to all these guys, like, this is your opportunity to go play against, starting players on the defense. And I know that there's a card in these defensive coaches. They love to draw the lines on the card and everything. And we just tell them, like, that's the route. This is our route. We just tell them. In our language, run that route. Get open, and whoever the show team quarterback is going to get you the ball. And I think he started doing that. He started gaining confidence. So that's just the biggest thing is probably, and then him just understanding what the day in and day out of pro football is, and how competitive it is. See you guys. Thanks, guys.
Turning you back on.
So there is Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel talking with the media here this morning at day 1 of Tennessee Titans training camp. Welcome back to St. Thomas Sports Park. Buck Rising over asking the questions with Mike Vrabel, Lucas Panzica helping make the show happen. I'm Will Bowling here for 1045thezone.com, where you can find everything that we've got today on our YouTube channel. If you missed any of the highlights, if you missed any of the report from Buck Rising, from Lucas Panzica, as everybody came off the field today, you can find that at 1045 The Zone on YouTube. We got about 5.5 minutes of practice highlights up there. And very briefly, we will have Buck's entire chat with Jon Robinson up on our YouTube feed as well. But joining me back at the table, Lucas Panzica, making a lot of things happen today, but so far so good here on day number 1.
Yeah, we couldn't have gotten any better weather for day 1 of Titans training camp. It was a little cloudy early on, thought we might get some rain, but now it's opened up a little bit, and it's a little breezy, but overall a good day 1 for the Titans. I guess it's not really day 1. Rookies have been here for a while. Veterans reported yesterday, but a lot of positive things coming out of today, most notably, I think, for Treylon Burks, right? That's the biggest headline to come out of day 1 of training camp.
I think without question, and I think that the specific matchup, Lucas, between Treylon Burks and Caleb Farley, that's going to be one of the most watched and one of the most analyzed matchups of Titans training camp. And Mike Vrabel was talking just a minute ago about how much Caleb Farley has benefited from a normal offseason. We heard Jon Robinson and Mike Vrabel say that really about Dylan Radins yesterday as well, saying, look, like these guys came off a season where they didn't play football. They have the COVID offseason. The normalcy of what they're going into this season, I think, is going to be a really big talking point for Caleb Farley, for Dylan Radins, for that entire group. So that, to me, is the biggest thing, Lucas, that stuck out to me all day. What Mike Vrabel was able to say just a minute ago about Caleb Farley, about him benefiting from everything that has gone on over these past couple of weeks. But him against Treylon Burks, we're going to be watching that matchup a lot.
I'm just glad for Treylon Burks' sake that the conversation can now go to his development as a wide receiver,
right,
easing into his rookie season and being thrown into the fire, because they're going to need him. They need Treylon Burks right now. He is wide receiver 2 next to Robert Woods, no matter what. So I'm glad that the conversation can now shift in that direction and not, can he finish a practice? At this point, we can put that conversation behind us. But for Caleb Farley, it's kind of the same thing, because last year it wasn't a question of him being out of shape. It was a question of him just being physically ready by the start of the season. He rebuked it in the name of Jesus the night he was drafted, that he would have back issues during training camp. But he did end up having those issues. He wasn't able to be a full go at the start of training camp. So here's his first career training camp where from day 1, from the jump, Caleb Farley's 100% getting all the reps that he needs. So I don't think you can understate how important that is for a team that saw 91 players come in and out of the lineup at some point or another. An NFL Network, we talked about it all year long. It's so critical for them to have 3 guys on the PUP list to start training camp. One of them that they're really going to miss, right, in Monty Rice, a pretty important depth piece for the inside linebacker core. But otherwise, everybody's 100% right now, and you can knock on wood, and no NFL team is 100% health rate, but it is just a really positive sign that they can start training camp and hit the ground running with almost everybody on the roster.
It is a really good sign, and now the question I'll ask you, Lucas, is what is the other position, what is the other member of this team, who's the other member of this team that becomes overanalyzed? Every single thing that they do, because you now know that since the Treylon Burks discussion is at least on the back burner for a couple of days, maybe for the rest of this week, and that's it, who is that guy now that is going to be just picked apart for every little thing that they do? I think it's got to be on the offensive line.
It's Ryan Tannehill to me.
Really?
I think it'll continue to be Ryan Tannehill, given the way that last season ended. We said on this show we are no longer talking about 2021 Ryan Tannehill. We're not talking about the Bengals game anymore. It's time to move on. You can use what happened last year, and you can use Tannehill's body of work to talk about your expectations and what you might believe to be a ceiling or concerns, all of those things. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you take your eyes off of him, because this is such a critical training camp for Ryan Tannehill. He's never had to replace his entire core around him as long as he's been with the Titans the way that he has to now, replacing almost 70% of his receiving production from last year. Like, do you remember, Will, going into week 1 against the Cardinals, one of the talking points of training camp last year was Julio Jones didn't really get to practice much. We were wondering if that was going to be an issue. Tannehill wasn't getting all the reps with his weapons around him. I don't know how much that played into the blowout loss against Arizona in week 1, but they certainly can't afford for that to be the case this year. They cannot afford for Tannehill to miss reps with Austin Hooper, with Traylon Burks, and with Robert Woods. So I think all eyes are on Tannehill as he gets acclimated with a completely different cast of characters. Nick Westbrook-Akina essentially being the only holdover that consistently saw targets from Ryan Tannehill last season. I don't think we can understate the importance of that. But you're right. There are very important decisions to be made along the offensive line as well.
Certainly. Oh, by the way, we also didn't factor in the fact last season that the Cardinals in August, September, and October are basically the 85 Bears. Like
right.
The Arizona Cardinals are the best team in football. Then they switch as the months turn, as the leaves fall. So do the Cardinals down the NFC West standings.
They might have literally peaked week 1. Like that was their best performance of the season. Chandler Jones with a historic day. Kyler Murray was running all over the place, and the Titans were off kilter a little bit to start the season.
What is it they call Kyler Murray now, Mr. September? Like
Mr.
you have Mr.
September.
October in
you don't want to be Mr. September
don't want to be
in the
Mr.
NFL.
September.
Yeah, that's not a good thing to be.
That's for sure. Another thing that I thought was of particular interest today, and perhaps this is the guy who becomes the focal point of Nashville media coverage, is Malik Willis. As he goes through camp, as he learns I don't know, how to take the mental reps, as Butch Jones would have said. But to an extent, like that phrase was kind of butchered by Butch Jones and by so many coaches, but you could really see Malik Willis was not out to the side. He was not talking with the third-team guys. He wasn't just talking with the rookies while things were going on. The guy at one point was standing in the line behind the offensive line as Ryan Tannehill is under center taking the snap, and Malik Willis, about 15 yards back, is in a crouch with his hands out like he's about to take the snap, and there's nobody in front of him. And then the ball is snapped. He goes through a 3-step drop, and he is mirroring everything that the quarterback was doing within that rep. So I think that's interesting. I saw a lot of Mike Vrabel going up to Malik Willis, just checking in on him after every couple of plays, talking with him. Same thing with Caleb Farley, another guy who is of particular interest to Mike Vrabel today in the conversations that they were having. But I think now the way that the reps get split up between Logan Woodside and Malik Willis is going to be an interesting talking point, because we haven't had an interesting third quarterback in camp in a really long time, other than the cup of coffee that Trevor Siemian maybe had here at the beginning of his tenure as a Tennessee Titan. What was this, 2 years ago at this point when he was here? So I think that's the next piece that people are going to discuss, and the next thing that we're going to hear from Mike Vrabel is the way that he comes along. And I think people are also going to learn. That's going to be really interesting for about a week or so. There's not really going to be a whole lot of new information to report on Malik Willis for the foreseeable future after these first couple days.
When Malik Willis got drafted, one of the first thoughts I had was Titans preseason games just got so much more interesting, right? It's no longer a battle between Logan Woodside and Matt Barkley or whoever else was brought in for Logan Woodside to fight off and stay alive as the Titans backup quarterback. But we're going to get to see a lot of Malik Willis in the preseason, and you mentioned that drill, mirroring Ryan Tannehill, of just taking snaps under center. It tells you the fundamental things that Malik Willis, the fundamental work that he has to do for the next few weeks at training camp. He never took snaps under center at Liberty. Understand how limited that offense was compared to what he's facing now, what he's trying to digest under Todd Downing and Tim Kelly in this Titans offense. So with that first preseason game, I am very interested to see how many reps Malik Willis gets. I imagine that they will let him loose largely in the second half, but Titans games got a lot more interesting when they drafted Malik Willis, and we're really going to get to see his development as a quarterback almost from scratch as an NFL-level quarterback to whatever he's going to turn into. It's going to be really fascinating to watch.
The other thing, just to peek behind the curtain, the comedic timing of the fact that basically we can report and live tweet things that happen within open periods of stretching, of individual drills, and the second it becomes a team period, we can't live tweet, and you guys obviously can't give live updates. Just the fact that, like, the second throw of the entire training camp was a Traylon Burks diving grab like Superman down the sidelines, like a 35-yard bomb.
Yeah.
And I just look back at you and Buck like, well, that sucks that about 30 seconds after you can't report on what's happening, the most interesting thing that's going to happen maybe all week happens right in front of you.
It sucks when it's happening right in front of you, too. Like,
you can't help but react to
We have such a good view here, and you hear the cheers, and someone said it sounds like we're on a playground just with the background noise, kind of the gnat sound, to use an industry term.
Live from elementary school. It's the Buck Rising.
Well, and someone in the YouTube chat said blink twice if that was Traylon Burks. And
Did
it
you
was.
blink twice?
No, I did not. I saw the comment too late, but I won't say if I would or wouldn't have because I don't want anybody to come at me. But we're going to hit a break here because because when we come back, quarterback Ryan Tannehill is going to be at the podium to talk about day one of Titans training camp out at St. Thomas Sports Park. So Ryan Tannehill, number 17, at the podium when we come back. It's the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
As the Titans get ready for another
Show on 104.5.
Turn your mic on in 3, 2.
Welcome back. It's the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone, broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park at Titans training camp. Buck is under the pavilion waiting on Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill to approach the podium. We will carry that live. Should be any moment now that we hear from number 17, Lucas Panzica. Will Bowling with you this morning. Will, Ryan Tannehill getting plenty of work with the ones on the practice field. What stuck out to you about where he was looking as we talk about how important these next few weeks are for him, getting acclimated to the bodies around him? So many new faces: Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Austin Hooper, guys that he was able to work with to an extent during OTAs. But did anything stick out to you about the way he was distributing the ball today at practice?
Well, we did mention this just at the end of the last segment, but one thing that really did interest me was the fact that his second throw of camp was a deep ball to Traylon Burks.
Yeah, diving catch.
There was a very clear initiative early to get Traylon Burks involved, get him a little bit of confidence, and kind of get him acclimated within the offense. I thought Chika Okonkwo was a guy that was looked to a couple of times, not just specifically from Ryan Tannehill, but a guy who was open in the flat, open underneath, and was a big part of the offense today on day one. Nick Westbrook-Akina, another guy, obviously the familiarity that he has with Ryan Tannehill, another guy who was targeted. Saw a little bit of Kyle Phillips, maybe not quite as much as I thought I would on the first day today of him catching a pass over the middle specifically in today's team period. But I just think the early initiative to get Traylon Burks involved in the offense, two short hitch routes that he caught, one of which was on Caleb Farley today. I had another catch Burks did where a guy had slipped kind of behind him. He found a hole in coverage. I believe it was Logan Woodside on that play who worked his way back to the other side of the formation and found Burks open. But I would say Traylon Burks, he's the guy that stuck out. I think there are a lot of media members today that were kind of looking at each other with eyebrows raised of like, oh, like maybe mini camp for a rookie doesn't mean all that much. Like,
right.
Yeah, okay, obviously.
You know, I'm surprised you don't see those type of storylines more. I know that was a part of Burke's past at Arkansas. Sam Pittman talked about it on 3HL, showing up before his junior year, right? Or maybe it was his sophomore year. He just showed up out of shape. straight up out of shape. He joked about hunting hogs not being good for your cardiovascular. But with the draft process being what it is, you're being poked and prodded at the combine, sitting through interviews, the lead up to the draft, and then flying into town, doing the press conferences, all the media stuff, meeting fans. I guess after we saw what happened with Burks and we saw how he looked today, which was fine, maybe I'm surprised we don't see that more often with rookies at rookie minicamp or at OTAs. That was an extreme example. The fact that he couldn't finish a practice obviously stuck out. That should never be the case in my mind. So there certainly should be some accountability there, and he talked about it today. But I'm just surprised we don't see those type of storylines more often now after watching all of this play out.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think, though, if there's anybody that should be in shape, it should be someone, and maybe this is my SEC bias showing, it should be someone who played in the SEC. Like, it should be somebody who played high-level Power 5 college football who should know better.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you think of somebody who's out of shape, you think of the COVID year impacting guys that didn't play in 2020. Sure, maybe that's a better reason to be out of shape and to not come into camp in particularly fit football shape to go out there and play immediately. But look, I just think if anybody should be ready, it should be him. And Sam Pittman was so nonchalant when we asked him about it last week. He's like, he just didn't show up in shape. Like, I just assumed that's what happened.
Yeah.
And as confident as he was in making that statement, there was also very little panic from the way that he said that and very little concern. So I think you're right. I think it's nice for maybe not for us. It's nice for fans. It's nice for Mike Vrabel. It's nice for coaches to not be, not have to have this conversation anymore.
So in the YouTube chat, you can hang out with us on 104.5 The Zone TV, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Z. Dean asks, did anything stick out at camp with Kyle Phillips, Austin Hooper, or Dwayne Haskins?
Hassan Haskins.
Oh, Hassan Haskins.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes.
I'm sorry.
That was one observation I was going to give you. Hassan Haskins is a very large human being. Like, there will be no pictures of Hassan Haskins standing next to Derrick Henry, like the way Derrick Henry obviously dwarfed Deion Lewis. Actually saw our buddy Austin Huff posted something today. It was Derrick Henry and his daughter. And it said, I didn't know Deion Lewis was back on the Titans practice field. It's like, wow, that's Deion Lewis catching a stray today from a bunch of people. Hassan Haskins is a big dude. I mean, they've got him listed on the official roster here at 6'2", 228 pounds. Mm-hmm. I think we also got so used to seeing Darrynton Evans be that second guy that when you see someone else that's built a little bit more like Derrick Henry, it's a bit jarring. It's not normal to see a second running back be as fit, be as big as that guy is, because we're so used to the contract of Derrick Henry and then someone that looks like they should be playing for the Brentwood Blaze and not for the Tennessee Titans compared to the way that Derrick Henry looks. So that was something that really stuck out to me, just the size of that dude. Not something you're used to seeing from a second or third running back.
Still waiting on Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill to approach the podium. We'll hear from him, his observations from the first day out here at practice at St. Thomas Sports Park. By the way, it is Ryan Tannehill's birthday, so I don't know if that's what the delay is about.
One day before me. I didn't know this.
Oh, your birthday's tomorrow?
It is.
Oh, that's great to know. I'm glad you said
on
that.
the Buck Rising show, you have to low-key just drop in like a mention that your birthday, like it could be the month of my birthday. And in honor of Buck and sitting in his chair, I have to mention that day is tomorrow, yes.
Ryan Tannehill turns 34 years old today. So, Brett Batchelor, if we could, let's wish our guy Ryan Tannehill, number 17, a very happy birthday.
And happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Like, that one gets me every time, I'm not going to
lie. Yeah. A lot of birthdays recently. Blaine Bishop had his over the weekend.
That's right.
Tannehill today. So, maybe that is behind the delay of Ryan Tannehill, why he is still in the locker room, has not come out to talk to the media. So now that the Burke stuff is kind of been pushed to the side, and we can now talk about Treylon Burks in the context of, okay, now how can he help this team in 2022? How can we watch him grow throughout training camp? What do you think is the biggest headline going into tomorrow?
I think the biggest headline is going to be how the offensive line lines up. Where Dylan Radins is, who is playing left guard, Aaron Brewer at that spot, Taylor Lewan and his leadership at that position as well. That, to me, is the most interesting talking point. Nicholas Petit-Frere as well, the way that he is being implemented into that offense, because if there's one big position that could continue to hold this offense back outside of wide receiver. Obviously, it's offensive line, and that's the thing that people are going to be most interested in. So I think it's offensive line. I just think it's Caleb Farley. You know, I've said it all offseason that I think he is the biggest X factor for this team in this offseason. The amount of range between him being really good and him not being able to contribute this year gives you two very different outlooks for this Tennessee Titans defense, particularly without Buster Screen.
Yeah.
That's something that I think a lot of people kind of glossed over yesterday as training camp started.
That was huge news.
Whenever I would ask Buck, and I remember asking him on Blaine and Mickey, hosting with Mickey a few weeks ago, asking him about the cornerback position and about Caleb Farley specifically, Buck's answer to me was, I'm not really as concerned. They've got Buster Screen there, and Mike Vrabel loves that guy.
Yep.
And he's a veteran presence within that locker room. So I would expect somebody to be added into that mix within the next couple of days. Mickey Ryan brought up this point on the practice field today. Who's the guy that benefits the most from Buster Screen not making this roster? Whether it's Greg Maben, whether it is Theo Jackson, whether it's one of those other, whether it's Chris Jackson, another guy that we're not talking about as much because you added a couple of guys in this last draft class at the defensive back position. So offensive line and defensive secondary, I think, are the two most interesting points at this juncture.
So as we wait for Ryan Tannehill to step up to the podium, here's what we'll do. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will pitch to number 17, who has actually just now stepped to the podium. So let's go ahead and hit that break, and then we'll come back, go straight to Ryan Tannehill. It's the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
The 3HL. Sometimes you just can't find the words.
She's just antibiotic. Not an antibiotic. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say she's, what's the word, man? Anaplectic. No, man. Bionic?
Hour number 3 of the Buck Rising Show underway from St. Thomas Sports Park out at Titans Training Camp on 104.5 The Zone. And the birthday boy, quarterback Ryan Tannehill, is meeting with the media now at the podium. We go to that live.
I love the little add-ons there. Yeah, it's just fuel. You know, you look at, things in your past and experience.
Mics are off.
You can learn from them, and you can use them as fuel as you move forward. So, that's the thought here moving forward is attacking this year, each and every day, and trying to get the most out of it.
How much credit does O'Hara get for matching you on the fades to the garbage can?
P.O. lives to that, Joe. I love going out there and competing, and it's always fun when he jumps in and competes with us.
When you first came in the league and maybe with less practice time, what's maybe important in July, August to get ready for the season?
Yeah, it's a long training camp, but yeah, things have changed a little bit. I came in after the two-a-days were I know I'm old, but I wasn't around when the two-a-days are still going on. I missed that, but it's a long training camp. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of days, and you can't let the grind of the training camp diminish the value of each and every day individually. Have to come out with a purpose and intention each and every day, and try to take advantage of the reps that we get.
Last year we asked you a lot at training camp about training camp interceptions, and if it was good offense or bad defense. You start the 7-on-7 with 2 long passes, one to Nick and one to Traylon. Is that good offense or bad defense?
I mean, I don't know, man. I try to go out and take advantage of the reps that we get. We had an opportunity. Nick did a great job of winning on the corner there. Had a low safety and were able to hit him deep on the first one. And Traylon had a one-on-one on the backside on the second one. So, when we get those opportunities, we want to take advantage of them and to start off the camp, this year, being able to have guys go make plays from me down the field. It's a good start, and hopefully we can build on it.
Did you want to start camp with a bomb like that?
Yeah, we know. Todd and I were talking this morning and wanted to put some down the field pressure on our defense, and I didn't know if we were going to get the look or not. Thankfully, defense called the coverage that gave us that look, and we were able to execute and make the play.
Given the playoff experience that you guys have had over the last few years, how do you measure success for this team, and is playoff success a metric for that?
Right now, I'm focused on going out and getting better each and every day of this training camp. I'm not worried about the playoffs right now. I'm worried about coming out, leading this team, and trying to prepare us to go win games this season.
You gotten a sense, or maybe more of a sense, of what Tim Kelly will bring to the passing game, and kind of how his role will fit with you?
Yeah, having another veteran coach around to help us with the pass game, I think will really help us. He's been around a lot. He knows football. Just talking scheme, talking concepts with him, having him help with our receivers and our tight ends, I think is going to be huge. So, anytime you can add a veteran coach with a lot of knowledge to your staff, I think it's going to help us.
Is the starting quarterback off limits to Ben Jones on his birthday, or do you walk around with your head in a swivel?
Oh, Ben Jones got me a few years ago, so thankfully all I got was a hug today, which was nice, and didn't get a pie in the face. So far. Yeah, he usually only gets you one unless you get him back. So then you're on the list forever. So I just took my one and we'll move on.
Do anything on your birthday, since it probably always lands around training camp time?
No, I haven't been able to celebrate my birthday probably like 15 years. Going back to college. So college is always training camp. NFL is my 11th year, always training camp. So. Hopefully got some good years left in me with no celebrations, and then first one when I'm out, we're going to celebrate it big.
How much pride do you take in just still being here, still being in the league? A lot of players burn out in this league, especially at your position at 34, to still be here playing at a high level.
I'm thankful for the opportunity. It's something I'm still passionate about. I still love the game. I still love coming to work and competing. It's a tough thing, but at the same time, it's something that I love doing and I don't take for granted. So, don't take it for granted, but want to cherish it a little bit and take advantage of the opportunities you have.
How do you kind of judge, not how much time you've got left, but how much longer you want to play for with your age and stuff? Is it a number you want to get to? Is it your production? How is that for you going into each new year and your love for the game?
Yeah, I take it 1 year at a time. So, right now I love the game. I love competing. I love where I'm at physically, I still feel really good. So 1 year at a time, and excited for what's ahead. All right, thank you.
That is Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill on his birthday from the podium here at St. Thomas Sports Park. It's the Buck Rising Show live on 104.5 The Zone from Titans training camp, and that's it. Day one in the books. Buck Rising making his way back to the setup. Lucas Panzica, Will Bowling with you. So, Will, what's the biggest storyline coming away from today?
Storyline is there we go. Now you can hear me. Biggest storyline has got to be Traylon Burks admitting that he was out of shape during minicamp, saying that he is 5 to 6 pounds lighter. I think just the non-story of having to worry about Traylon Burks being in shape for the beginning of camp is the biggest storyline today. Him being a positive, him being someone that Ryan Tannehill looked towards. I think it's a runaway easily. He's the biggest storyline we're talking about today.
So Tannehill talked a little bit just now about the work that they were able to get in the spring, and commending his receivers for the work they were able to get in today. In the spring especially, I think that's critical, what he was able to establish with Austin Hooper. There was a lot of attention on that because Traylon Burks obviously wasn't nearly as involved. Robert Woods was in an earlier stage of coming back from his ACL recovery. So I wonder how much more ahead Ryan Tannehill might be with this tight end in Austin Hooper than he is with these other new faces around him, and how much we see that play out starting week one at home against the Giants.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I think that's a guy that can be a go-to target pretty quickly for that reason. We saw that on the opposite end last year of somebody who didn't really have a lot of time with his main weapons, with his receivers, and the fact that he's able to get that with a position that's been so important to him through his entire career certainly doesn't hurt. And now the guy who the show's actually named after is going to come back and do his show.
Did you boys have fun?
Had a great time.
How'd everything go?
Everything went well.
Did you learn a lot?
Yeah, we crashed and burned. We went off the air for about 30 minutes.
Somebody less than 220 pounds sat in your seat. It was nice.
Ooh. Oh, that's fantastic. That's well done.
You mean the chair is thankful that it got a break? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think so. I think it definitely is.
Why don't you get the hell out of my way? Will Bowling, Lucas Panzica. Well, thank you. Where are we at in the show right now?
Well, we already gave Tannehill his Stephen A. Smith happy birthday shout-out, so we don't need to do that anymore. But, yeah.
Are we at the start of the segment? Has the show started?
Yes, hour 3 has started.
We're not just talking for our health here.
You are
excellent. I don't know.
You are on the air.
No, I'm aware.
We did mention that Kirby's in front of the camera. That's what's going on.
That's okay. So, with everything so what did you guys take away from that Tannehill and Vrabel press conference? Because I didn't catch Byard because we had Jon Robinson on, but I felt that what the quarterback is looking to establish, everybody felt pretty comfortable and smooth with what was going on out there outside of some day one hiccups.
Yeah, he was complimentary of all the new faces around him. We were talking about the early connection with Traylon Burks, that diving catch near the sideline. Obviously, Des Fitzpatrick winning one of the offseason awards. Mike Vrabel said that right out the gate. Dylan Radins included in that as well. But I think that's the biggest takeaway is this is Ryan Tannehill's first day surrounded by all the new faces that he's going to be around when the season starts. He didn't get a chance to do it at OTAs, didn't get a chance to do it at minicamp with the issues around Traylon Burks. This was the first time that we have gotten to see him with Traylon Burks and Robert Woods and Austin Hooper, all those guys in the same setting.
No, I thought it was crisp, right? That's, again, the kind of stuff that you're looking for. Now, he did mention, and I think it's important for people to remember this, that he has had a couple of days with Traylon Burks prior to them coming out here because the quarterbacks, the quarterbacks, the undrafteds, and the draft picks all reported late last week. So they've had a couple of days to get out here, to get comfortable, to work out some kinks, for there to be, ugly parts before we get out here and see a little more of a refined product. Again, as he said, work to do in that regard. Oh, Dawn Davenport is over here. Do we have headsets for Dawn? Hi, Dawn.
No, I'm not getting on.
No, what do you mean you're not getting on? All right, Dawn says she's not getting on.
Off the clock.
Just a hello to the Zone TV audience.
She said.
Oh, here she comes.
No, okay, now she wants the microphone. What happened? What happened there?
I felt guilty for saying no to you.
You should.
That was mean or
you're
something.
You're my teammate. What happened?
Whatever. Teammate, schmeemate.
What'd you learn?
That Traylon Burks is in shape, and he basically said, hey, all y'all talking about you're stupid, I'm out of shape, and whatever else. That's not mine, Kirby. Mine's over here. He basically said, watch me and sit and spin. Isn't that what you say?
That's right.
Yep.
Sit on it and spin.
Yes, no, and I
not so
get
many
it.
words.
We're looking at 7-on-7 drills. It's the first day of camp. It's not as hot as normal. I get it, but I thought he looked good.
No, I thought the full team stuff was productive. I mean, listen, it's basically an extension, and I asked him that question at the press conference. It's basically an extension of what they just ended doing in June and in May with this. Sorry, Don.
Oh, it's windy.
They were a paper cut with this, with the lack of pads right now. But for what they are going to be doing in the next basically 4 days before they can officially put pads on, this is exactly what you needed it to look like, I think, on day one.
So I don't know if you were over there. I sent you the audio, but I chatted with Burks after practice. In a little media scrum or whatever, and it was interesting to me too. Obviously, first thing out of the gate, hey, how you feeling? What's the physical side of it?
Better than what Lawan did to me. Just walked up and poked me in the stomach. I hope nobody did that to Traylon Burks today.
No, but you could tell that he has slimmed up. Now he said he only lost like 5 pounds, right? But we all know. Sometimes the number weight isn't indicative of how in shape or not in shape you are. Yeah. But anyway, what stood out to me about the conversation with him was super mature. Said he figured out how to control his asthma, which, is interesting because Sam Pittman said he didn't know that he had asthma on our show last week at Arkansas.
I was on vacation when Pittman just gave you the goods, gave you all the goods.
I know.
And I was sitting there dumbfounded by the idea that an SEC head coach would not know that his star wide receiver has asthma.
Well, but so Traylon addressed that and said, it got him like his freshman year at Arkansas a little bit, but then he figured out how to handle it by his junior year. It wasn't an issue, which I had said I knew he used an inhaler here and there at Arkansas. So
coming in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think Sam Pittman saying that it's because he had it under control, well into his sophomore year, even though he was out of shape. So that was one thing. And then the other was he just took complete accountability for not being in shape. And I probably should have done more before those OTAs.
Which
and that
is all that we
me.
asked of him at the start, Dawn. But I guess, he has to do it on the back end to be able to be accountable. Like, he has to go through all these different things. It's a learning process, I understand.
You're saying that's all you asked of him at the start? What, you asked him to say, oh, I'm out of shape?
To talk to us about something that was going on. Just talk to us instead of deferring to Mike Vrabel, and then we get Inhalergate, and all this other crap, which is
What do you expect? He's a rookie. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how it all works. He doesn't want to throw himself under the bus and not realize.
It is to get in front of him and say, hey, bud, just talk about it and be done with it and move on with your day. I just think it would be so much cleaner. Why can't it be clean?
Well, but
I'm taking Traylon Burks' side on this one.
If the asthma, we talk about the asthma not really playing a role, right? Like we're saying at this point, well, the asthma doesn't matter. He was just out of shape.
Right.
So if the asthma didn't matter, then I guess looking back on it, we don't need to make a big deal about them not telling us that he had asthma because clearly they thought it had no impact on whether or not he was in shape.
Sam Pittman didn't think it had an impact at Arkansas to where he didn't even know if he had asthma or not. I mean, his answer was basically, oh, yeah, no, he doesn't have asthma. Maybe he did. I don't know. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So Pittman was basically like, yeah, he was out of shape his sophomore year when he came back, like really out of shape, and clearly hog hunting doesn't do much for your cardiovascular health. Those are Sam Pittman's words. So it had happened before. I had no issue with him not saying it then. I think it tells a lot about him as a player, as a person, to tackle it today. He was great in the media scrum. He answered all those questions. He talked about basically he just ran, which we knew he was going to end up doing to get in shape, to get ready conditioning-wise, and he owned it. So good for him. It gave us something to whine about for 3 months, and now we'll see what he can do.
Now we're here.
Pittman didn't recruit Burks, though, did he?
No.
So maybe that's something he would have learned in the recruitment process. I'm not sure.
That's part of my thing because Traylon Burks was saying when I first got to Arkansas my freshman year, because Burks was recruited by Chad Morris. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I worked one of his games.
Who, by the way,
freshman
Pat
year.
Forty thinks is a better hire in the SEC than Jeremy Pruitt, but a conversation for another day. We can talk about that another day.
I mean, I did work that game where they lost to San Jose State.
They had some dreadful
there were
losses.
some bad losses in the Chad Morris era. I will say this. well, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think Chad Morris is a great recruiter, offensive guy. Don't let him be a head coach kind of thing, you know? Yeah, so.
I think that's fair.
Anyway, you guys know some coaches are only meant to be coordinators, period.
Yes.
And that's it.
Jeremy Pruitt is one of them.
Yes, Jeremy
Wizenhunt
Pruitt's a
was
perfect
another.
example.
Did I inconvenience you too much?
No, you didn't.
You've done a great job.
Okay.
What's on 3HL today?
Whole lot of training camp talk since I was out here sweating. Got to watch it all.
I know. I didn't mean to put you in the sun. Now I do.
Yeah.
Now I do feel bad.
Nobody puts baby in the sun.
Nobody puts baby in a corner
Kirby.
and Babs in the sun, except for Kirby Allen Kirby.
Kirby's like, I don't care. Sit your butt down.
Don Davenport, 3-6, 3HL. Thank you, Don.
See you, fools.
Always a pleasure. 615-737-1045. Did you guys do the dumbest thing in sports this week yet?
We need to do the dumbest thing in sports because we have things to give away for the dumbest thing in sports.
By God, let's do that next.
Stream all
Buck, you got 2 rivers coming up.
I have a what now? I'm sorry?
2 rivers.
Okay, I got you.
on YouTube
We got to make up
and
2
Twitch.
lives.
Okay. radio show, everything possible. SpringHillAC.com, except for the damn lawnmower.
That's going to be fun.
Terry Porch and I, the head Titans equipment guy. This is a perpetual fight each and every year. The greatest position battle at Titans training camp is not what you see on the field, but what takes place after between the media and Terry Porch.
An unwinnable fight.
Yeah, no, we take the L every time. Austin Stanley, A to Z Sports. Speaking of letters, A to Z Sports.com is where you go. What's happening, bud?
What's going on?
Not much. Good to be back out here. Good to be around everybody. Lovely to see you in person.
Yeah, I know, right? We talk a lot, but usually over a Zoom or a phone or whatever.
Yeah. So coming out here at training camp, and you and Sam Phelan, is that how I
Phelan, yeah.
Sam Phelan.
The new guy.
The new guy. Yeah. Our new, we have a new Luke. It breaks my heart. I love Luke, but Sam is going to be really good. Has he been roughed up by Vrabel yet? Has he gotten the experience?
No, he's been around. He was around for, I guess, Traylon Burks' post-draft presser was his first day. So he's been around for a couple months, but he has not had the opportunity to have a run-in with Vrabel yet, like you and I have.
We have all been there.
Now has Lucas.
Lucas is not. Lucas is also in Virgin territory.
Yeah, I have yet to be chewed up and spit out by Vrabel.
Buddy, we're doing a radio show about 20 feet from one of his wide receiver drills. It will happen at some point over the next
I look forward to it.
6 weeks. What'd you think of Burks today?
He's fine, right?
Yeah, it looks great.
It looks great. He talked and said everything he was supposed to do. You know, he didn't want to talk to the media, but who does out here? But he
not
did
at first, but I thought he did.
He did a great job. It was nearly 5 minutes. I mean, I was right there from the very beginning to the last question that I asked him.
Which, for context, that's a long time. If you've done an athlete interview, 5 minutes seems like an eternity.
It was a long time, especially because it was on the actual field, not under the pavilion where there's shade. So he went through it all. Was very accountable of everything. He brought up his asthma, so maybe Sam Pittman really doesn't know much about asthma from his 3HL interview from last week. But no, he was great. He said that he should have attacked it differently to start his Titans career a few months ago. But he looks great. Mentioned he lost 5 or 6 pounds. And I think, Buck, that makes a huge difference, right?
I almost cussed at you. You mother bleeper. That is shameful. Man. All right, you know what? That's fine. That's a great lead-in as the lawnmower gets even closer. It's like he heard me. That's a fantastic lead-in for what so many of you are already on the line for, and that we are going to surprise our buddy Austin Stanley with. It is time for the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
"What the is this?" You got one?
What the hell? Give me some more now.
Something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot. You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
Sure is, and we got tickets for you to win a VIP experience on the General Jackson Sunday, August the 7th at the Music City Grand Prix. A ride on the boat if you want it, if you want to get on the boat, if you want to get off the boat at any point. It's going to be in front of the track the whole time. Lucas and I are going to be hosting a driver's Q&A. I think the ticket value is like $350. It's going to be an all-day incredible experience. Food, booze, AC, we got you. The winner of the dumbest thing in sports this week, not Kayla Anderson or Emily Proud of WKRN News 2. Love you both. We will send you to the General Jackson Sunday, August the 7th. I think that we should let the guest lead us off. Austin Stanley, what is the dumbest thing in sports this week?
So this is very localized and very pan-personal for me. So you go through your Twitter mentions or your Instagram comments or whatever, but really it's about Twitter. And it has to do with training camp. So let this be a PSA for Titans fans. You will see a lot of videos over the next 3 weeks at practice. Then you will see tweets about an hour and a half later saying Traylon Burks caught a 40-yard bomb from Ryan Tannehill in the opening, practice of camp. And then you get the reply of, well, where's the video? It's like, well, okay, PSA, everybody, please. Like, we only can video certain portions. So if there's no video of it, then we weren't allowed to video it. Because I would love at A to Z Sports to post on all of our social media accounts to all of our followers the 45-yard bomb that Traylon Burks laid out, dove for, caught on the second play of practice.
You mean better than the ladder drill?
Yes, that would be so much better than him holding a football tied to a band pulled by a guy, going and touching a cone and keeping his eyes up.
That's my least favorite drill.
It's so boring. But you know what's funny about that drill that's the drill that got him out of breath on rookie minicamp. But again, if we had the video, you'd see it. And so we are getting all the video we can, so that's my dumbest thing in sports.
I promise we're not slacking. At Austin Stanley 81 is where you can pepper him with all of your training camp complaints. And, of course, mornings, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on the A to Z Sports Digital Network. My dumbest thing in sports this week, this came out, I guess Kaharski had this scheduled in the middle of the press conference. Bud Adams misses the finalist cut as a Hall of Fame contributor, which is honestly just an outright crime. This man is one of the key figures in the formation of the modern-day NFL. It has nothing to do with local bias. It is simply a matter of you cannot tell the history of the current era of this sport without Bud Adams as a fixture, without the Houston Oilers, without the Foolish Club, which was the group of AFL owners who took it too, legitimately, not in a way that the USFL has tried and failed, not the AAF, not the XFL. The AFL legitimately put on a competitive product and made the NFL bend to somebody else's will. I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to professional sports in basically the last 20 years. That's a really damn hard thing to do. The dumbest thing in sports is Bud Adams missing the cut.
My dumbest thing in sports this week is Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Sad news in May, as longtime Cowboys director of college and pro scouting Larry Lacewell passed away at the age of 85. Actually, Mickey Ryan, very, very close with Larry Lacewell, was the head coach at Arkansas State for a long time. Larry Lacewell replaced Coach Doug Matthews as the defensive coordinator at Tennessee in 1990 before eventually leaving to become the director of college and pro scouting for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Lacewell was just short-statured, was about 5'2". So Jerry Jones, when he opened up training camp this week, was trying to be respectful, making a joke, being respectful of his friend who he lost in May. And he said, and I quote, "Lace held court out here." He said, while speaking about his former employee, "I'm going to get me somebody, a blank, a word I'm not going to use, a word that starts with an M that is used to describe little people, that is now seen as a derogatory term,
Indeed.
to stand up there with me and dress him up like Lace and think that Lace is still out there helping us. Look at the practice with us." But, you know, we all need our props, a little memory that goes with him.
We all need our props.
So like Jerry Jones saying that he wants a little person, not using the word little person, next to him as a prop to pretend to be Larry Lacewell while observing practice is my dumbest thing in sports this week.
You could almost forgive the terminology slip if you did not talk about a human being as a prop.
Human being.
Like, I think that's the part that I think should catch people up more than anything else. Kirby, do you have a dumbest thing in sports? This is risky. Always a risky proposition.
That story.
No, I know.
He has since apologized.
But at least he didn't apologize to China and Mandarin, Kirby. At least there was not a situation, a John Cena situation for you to yell at us about. All right. Caller, 615-737-1045 for the chance to go to the General Jackson. You're going to tell Austin Stanley, Lucas Panzica, Kirby, Alan Kirby, and myself what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. Let's go with Shane, who has been waiting. What's up, Shane?
My dumbest thing in sports this week would have to be, I'm a huge wrestling WWE fan. Story came out that Cody Rhodes is looking at possibly being fined $1,000 every single time he publicly calls a championship a belt. It has always been called a belt, but now the WWE has a dumb rule that says that if you call it a belt during any public speaking that you give, you'll be fined $1,000 instead of calling it a championship.
That is dumb. Did anybody did they fine Rob Manfred when he called the World Series trophy a hunk of metal? Did anybody do that?
No.
I feel like that should be an appropriate fine. That is an outrageously stupid
Does
thing.
championship belt get a pass?
See, this is the kind. This is like guys getting fined in NFL games for their socks not being pulled up high enough.
Yeah, exactly. This is a blind spot for us.
It's just pure. What, wrestling?
Yeah, just WWE.
Oh no! How about this? How about I do a little reporting? Sources say that the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, is going to be in attendance at Titans practice tomorrow, given that SummerSlam is in town. So tell me I'm outside. I'm on the outside, blind spot.
I knew that because you wanted it on the show, but
that's right.
What are you going to ask Ric Flair?
What am I going to ask Ric Flair? Mm-hmm. Whether he was actually on that train. You know what I'm talking about?
In Tampa?
Yeah, the picture that went viral.
That's right.
A little while ago.
That's right.
I think that would be my first and foremost.
Yeah, lead with
question.
that.
But Austin is looking at me puzzled. Google it, but not on
I
a work
forgot
computer.
about it. Work computer.
Yeah, well, whatever. Buddy, whatever you're on that you don't want people to, be questioning your search methods, Google it on that platform.
I can't fire myself.
And for all, yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair. Business owner, Forsyth and Hilario, CPAs. Anyway, Phil, what's the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, man. I love your show. I got to get this out. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, and I don't know why, after seeing Fabio step off the plane, I don't know what's gotten into Aaron Rodgers. I don't need a Michael Bolton on our team. I need somebody to show up and do what they're supposed to do. Listen, I hope you're listening right now, Aaron Rodgers. Our only hope is this Forrest Gump comes running through there because we don't have no receivers now that you've gotten all sassy all over the place and took every dime from the team, and now all you're worried about is your perk plus and your hairdo. I'm tired of it. That's my say today. All right, thank you.
By God.
He is listening.
Phil, I have it on good authority that he has a home here. Well, I assume Aaron Rodgers listens to the 104.5 The Zone from 10 to 1 each and every day.
Well,
in the offseason.
we're the reason he's not the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, remember?
Oh, us?
Yeah,
specifically?
we pushed him away.
Hey, we're getting a boatload of calls.
Did you hear I ran him out of town?
Mm-hmm.
You ran it, Aaron.
Single-handedly.
Yeah,
we had a caller allege that because Aaron Rodgers was listening very closely to what people like me say about him.
Pretty good authority that Aaron Rodgers does not care about anything.
No, in fact, that's so.
And, speaking of Aaron Rodgers showing up to practice, what did I text you last night about that, Buck?
To show up looking like Aaron
I
Rodgers.
thought it'd
practice
be great for Buck to pass his 220 weigh and showing up like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, if I'd have been under 220, I would have done it.
Yeah,
but yeah. I can't show up as fat. But what's my guy's name in Con Air? Does anybody know?
Oh, Nick Cage's character?
But Nick Cage's character in Con Air.
It's good enough.
No, it's not.
Yes,
good
it is.
enough.
Nick Cage's character.
Because the funnier name, the name is the name.
Cameron Poe.
Cameron Poe. See, I told you it was comedically better than Nick Cage. 615-737-1045.
Phil, the leader in the clubhouse.
45. Phil is indeed the leader of the clubhouse. Jacob Scott, and we'll get to more phone calls here in a second because I know some of you guys want to talk Titans too, and we'll do that with Austin Stanley since he was out here observing practice, and you can read a lot. You'll read my practice observations, as a matter of fact, at AtoZSports.com after the radio show concludes. Jacob says the dumbest thing in sports has been the Titans media talking about Burks being out of shape for months for him to show up to mandatory camp, to training camp in shape. I think that is the most result-in-hand criticism of people who do what we do. Now, I'm not saying this as a defense just because I'm media, all right? Because I feel, Lucas can probably push back on this if he feels differently, but I feel that I've been exceedingly diplomatic about the Treylon Burks situation. A situation to monitor. We'll give you updates on a daily basis. If there's news available about it, then we can have a further discussion.
Checks of new names.
But in the meantime, that's not something that I'm prepared to listen to and to hear and to, over exaggerate. But if it's a thing, then we're going to document it. We're going to talk about it. I think it's completely reasonable, the coverage of Treylon Burks.
He said it. He has talked about it. Yes, I was out of shape. I'm being accountable. I worked hard to make sure that wasn't the case coming in, and to his credit, that's exactly what happened.
I think Jacob Scott, respectfully, Jacob, and we love you and thank you for listening. And you are allowed to nominate whatever you like for the dumbest thing in sports. But also, I think Jacob Scott is somebody tweeting you about videos that you did not take.
Where's the video? Where's the video? Where's the video guy just gets to me. It shouldn't because it's not that big of a deal. But it does get to me. No, but Treylon Burks was out of shape. It's not that he was out of shape. He couldn't make it through the first rep of the first drill. If anybody else showed up to the first day of work like that, it wouldn't be a good time for you.
No.
No, you have to give him credit for turning it around and coming out here for the first day of camp and looking really good. But still, you shouldn't have to have the bad to make it become a story.
Right. No, I think that again, it's results in hand. When you have the player saying, yeah, I did a bad job, I think it is fair criticism to look at Treylon Burks and being like, yes, it was fair to have a discussion. Some people may have taken it to other extremes, I don't know that those people are sitting among us at present.
I'll also say this. If after that rookie minicamp practice, if Mike Vrabel stood up there and said, well, he had an asthma attack, and so he was trying to get through that and he couldn't get through it, then our reaction would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Stuff happens,
Completely
right?
fair. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the Titans or the dumbest thing in sports. Let's go to Owen in Lafayette. I got it right. Nailed it. What's up, Owen?
Hey.
What's happening, buddy?
So I was just wanting to know, what about Malik Willis? Is he going to, play maybe one half of the game and Tannehill the other?
Do you mean in preseason or in the regular season, buddy?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, regular season.
Okay. Well, in the regular season, I think you'll see him in the preseason primarily, Owen, and thank you for the call. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. But I know there are plenty of Titans fans like Owen who very much would like to see a half of Tannehill and a half of Malik, or probably a half of Malik first and then a half of Tannehill. He's making them tell you shoulder pads on.
No, you can't. And really then, what do you know? Because you also understand that the goal is to stay healthy. And so, the nature of those positions, it doesn't allow you to stay healthy. So you've got to be able to finish in game, but you can't finish in practice. You can, the open field drills they do early in practices are interesting to me too, because, a wider or the DB or the defender kind of two-hand, touches the runner.
No contact.
But that doesn't even mean that they were in position to make a tackle.
Right.
They could still be arm's length away and do that, and that looks like a good rep out of them.
Yeah, no, things like the open field tackling drill, you can get a good idea of a guy's mobility and stuff like that, but there's only so much that they want them doing. I mean, hell, they have 615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week, or Titans talk as well? We're hanging out here with Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports. Let's go to, who we got? Chickpea in Nashville up next. What's up, Chickpea?
The dumbest thing in sports has to be disqualifying Denny Hamlin for 2 pieces of 2-inch tape
oh my God.
from the Pocono race this past weekend. That's just retarded.
From a language standpoint, let's avoid that certainly. But disqualifying Kirby, you have thoughts on the NASCAR race?
They all know what the parameters on that aerodynamics of that vehicle, and believe it or not, that extra 2 layers of tape changes the front end aerodynamics on that vehicle and gives him an advantage.
All right, so explain to people the circumstance, because Lucas and I don't watch NASCAR, although I know that a lot of people lost money on the results being changed out.
Well, actually, most of them were allowed to keep it, I've heard. But